Have you been wondering, when were we going to interview brothers who are currently in law enforcement? We're doing that now. We'll have our first law enforcement officer this first Monday in March 1st, and then the next 2 Mondays after that will be episodes with brothers who are currently in law enforcement. A reminder to make sure you subscribe so that you do not miss any episode, any other brothers between now and March and after March or anytime. Thank you for being a subscriber. Thank you for being a listener. Welcome to 365 Brothers, the podcast. I'm your host, Rahbin Shyne. I am delighted to bring to you brothers from across the United States and from various professions talking about their life experiences, their wisdom, and a conversation that also touches on racial profiling in the United States, how pervasive it is, what the impact is. And remember, you can follow us on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, follow us on Facebook at 365 Brothers, the podcast. If this is your first time listening to a 365 Brothers episode, make sure you subscribe because you do not want to miss one brother's wisdom, one brother's experience, and their perspective on life in the United States. Today, we're speaking to a gentleman who's originally from Southside, Jamaica, Queens, New York. He currently resides in San Diego. He is a veteran of the Marine Corps, and he is currently president of Semper Kaizen Corporation. We are speaking with Donald Coleman. Welcome, Donald.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Before we go into the questions, is there anything you'd like to share about yourself to help the listeners get to know you better?
Well, I'm an optimist, so I look at things from the positive standpoint and everything that I do. So I'm hoping that I can just provide some insights and informations to help my brothers and people listening to this podcast experience the best in life that they can get. So
fantastic. With that, let's dive in. What is your favorite song or movie, either now or all time?
Well, my favorite movie by far is The Matrix.
Woohoo! I'm with you.
That movie transformed my life. And one scene in particular, when Neo is inside of the subway station and he's getting beat down by Agent Smith, and Agent Smith has him in the headlock, and the train's coming, and he finally realizes that his name is no longer Mr. Smith, but his name is Neo. And everything transforms from that point.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and that to me is a reflection of life in general, is when you find out who you are, the whole game changes.
I'm a build on that. This morning, I went on Facebook, and you know how it'll show you things that you've shared recently?
Yes.
So the one that popped up that I shared 8 years ago, it says, everybody is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid. And I share that in relation to what you just said, because knowing who we are is like identifying our unique gifts, our unique perspective. And I just love that you said that, because it's so true. Once you know who you are.
Yes.
That's fantastic. And by the way, I saw that movie in the theater 3 or maybe 5 times.
I watch it at least twice a year.
Seriously?
Every year. And my kids actually have started watching it, because there is so much about the struggle of life in that movie that we don't even get out of it. I mean, it's an amazing.
Tell me one thing that I would love to hear, something that you've seen in it that maybe a lot of people have missed.
Well, but think about the struggle that anytime you attempt to be who you are, there's always going to be someone there to pull you down or to try to destroy that.
Mm.
That's the whole basis of what it is. And the other, I have to say this, Morpheus, without a Morpheus in your life, we all go astray. Morpheus
Mm.
believed before Neo could believe in himself. Oh my goodness, don't get me started on this, please. Oh my goodness, this is life-changing movie. I mean, it's
Yeah.
life-changing.
You know what? Honestly, you and I could do a podcast just on the Matrix, a new episode every week.
And bring me in. I'll sign up for that one for sure. I will
Oh,
definitely sign up for that one.
and I will say this, it came out Easter weekend. I forget what year, but it was Easter weekend. And I couldn't help but notice all the symbolism to Christianity, Neo, like New
Yes,
Testament,
yes,
all of that. Oh, it's so
yes.
juicy. What is a favorite childhood memory?
The most impactful memory that I have as a child was the day that I found out what my name truly means.
Ooh.
When I was 16 years old, my godfather explained to me what Donald actually means. And it's an Irish descent and it means world ruler.
Mm.
So from that point, I was no longer called Donnie or Don. You have to call me Donald E. Coleman. I don't, that's my name. And my parents gave me that name, not knowing that inside of me, I have the capacity to rule, not people, but to rule the world around me. And now I live on that. I've lived in that understanding since I was 16. And every day I get up, my purpose is to impact the lives of those around me so that they can rule their environment or rule what's happening around them that's in their control. We don't rule people, but we can control situations or circumstances and how we respond to them. So
Right. I'm curious, do you recall what was it that had him reveal, like share with you the meaning of your name at that time, at that moment?
So my dad passed away when I was 14 years old. And prior to that, my dad left when I was 10. So, and I call Mr. Steve, God bless you, Mr. Steve. I call him Mr. Steve. He wasn't my biological or, when you go to the church and get baptized, godfather, but he was a gentleman at the end of the block on where we lived in Queens, 10526, 133rd Street. I'll never forget that address. Mr. Steve lived up there, and he saw upon himself to take me underneath his wings and to kind of mentor me or to talk with me. I didn't know it was mentoring at the time, but he held me close to him and, made me run errands and do things like that. And we were just having a discussion. I was in high school and he says, "Hey, this is what your name means. Understand that every one of us have a purpose in life." And it was the first time an adult man had spoken into my life.
Mm.
And I was like, whoa. And I still remember that conversation to this day and still remember everything else that has transpired since then.
Your first Morpheus.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I get that. That's awesome. Thank you. Now we're going to talk about accomplishments. I asked this question in two parts. First, an accomplishment that means the most to you personally, and then an accomplishment that gets others going, what or wow. So let's start with the first. Which of your accomplishments means the most to you personally, Donald?
For me, it was having the honor to serve our country as a United States Marine. That by far is the most important accomplishment that I could have ever done. I left Queens, New York as a young cat, basically thinking I knew everything, didn't need to take orders, didn't need to listen to anybody. And the Marine Corps taught me one very important lesson I learned in the Marine Corps, because I was 21 years old when I went into the Marine Corps. I didn't go in immediately after high school.
Mm-hmm.
The Marine Corps taught me there are no sick days in life.
Mm.
And the only easy day was yesterday. That's it. That's it.
I've interviewed several veterans, and as always, I'm grateful for the sacrifices made. So thank you.
Yes.
But I've never heard anyone share that one. I feel like I just got a secret.
Well, but think about it. When you're in the military, because I don't think they think about it from that standpoint. Rain doesn't stop you from work. Sick bay doesn't stop you from work. There is no. You have to get permission to go to sick bay. You don't call your boss in. So you learn to persevere through obstacles or situations or circumstances. You learn to deal with all the other stuff and focus on the task at hand.
Yeah.
And that's power.
There's something that comes to mind. I did not serve in the military, but I participated in a program which it was just 6 months, but it did require you to really the backbone of it was integrity. And you're expected to be where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there. And I remember it always seemed like they were a little ridiculous about, not, you're just supposed to show up no matter what. Right. And so I remember one day I wanted to not show up, and I thought I felt sick. But then I was called. And again, it wasn't nearly as stringent as being in the military. But I remember thinking, man, I got to explain why I'm not there. You know what? I guess I'll just do it. And it was surprising to me that I actually made it through the day. Nothing happened. I didn't die. So I appreciate you sharing that. I do have a question for you. What was it that made you go into the military at 21? As you said, you didn't go in right after high school. What had you choose?
We don't have enough time for this one. Oh my goodness.
Give me the broad strokes.
The broad stroke is I had a vision quest, and I had a dream from my dad. My dad came back and visited me in the dream. And in that dream, I'm about to tear up right now. Oh my goodness. My dad came back to visit, and we went on a stroll. And the amazing thing is, in the dream, and as I'm talking to you, more revelation is coming. We never actually went on strolls. So he took me on a stroll, and we walked down the street, him and I hand in hand together. And when you look to the right, there was a Marine. When you look to the left, there was a silhouette of a woman with a child, about 5 or 6 years old. And then we started walking together with that. And then we looked down the road again. There was a silhouette of a man with you saw the tie and a briefcase. And then we came together, and then we started walking towards this beautiful sunset. And I woke up. And that dream, with understanding my name, has been my life's focus, is walking down that road. And when I met my wife on the subway train in New York, I didn't even know that she had a kid. And it was love at first sight. I met her on the subway, and I said to my buddy, I'm marrying that woman. Didn't even know her. And 2.5 years later, we got married. And then I joined the Marine Corps. I joined the Marine Corps first, and I said, look, I'm joining. This is something I got to do. If you love me, you'll be here. And she was there when I got out of boot camp, and we got married. And that's how we got to California. So.
Wow. And she had a child that was around that age?
She was about, when we first met, about 4.5 years old. Yes.
Didn't even know it. Something? Isn't that something?
That's called providence, is what that is. That's what it is.
So glad I asked. I also now understand the special place, because you can hear it. There are people who share that they were a Marine, that they have served in the military. But there's something about the way that you say it it's something beyond just pride. And I now understand what that is.
Without a doubt. Yeah. And thank you for acknowledging that. And yeah, thank you. And can I share one other thing that's so powerful that just happened to me? And I just got it in the mail today. When my dad passed, I was 14, and my dad served in the Army for 2 years in 1950. And they gave my mom a flag. Didn't understand it, didn't know anything about it. Well, as a Marine, you understand the pride that goes into that flag that we hang up. And this Christmas, after about 10 years of being separated from my family back east, we talk, but it's not like really talk. I said, you know what? Enough is enough. So I put together a Zoom call, and I was able to talk to my brothers and sisters and my nieces and nephews that my kids don't even know them. We were able to get on a call for 1 hour and to see each other, and it was incredible. And the conversation of the flag came up. And my brother says, I still have that flag. Do you want it? Mm. And I just started bawling, because for me to have that piece of my dad, because I couldn't and I didn't have a piece of my dad when he was living, but to have that symbol of my dad with me is incredible. And to know that I have that in my house right now and I'm looking at it is incredible. It's full circle for me right now. So anything's possible to happen in life right now.
I want to tell you what I'm present to. You said that flag just arrived today?
Yes.
So, here we are having this conversation. You're sharing about your service and what it means to you. It's the accomplishment that means the most. I happen to ask you about why, and it's inspired by your dad coming to visit. All I'm saying is I feel like your dad is present in this conversation and smiling.
Yes, he is.
That's great. That is, there's nothing better. So,
yes.
And just, what's his name? Just so it's spoken.
Earl Edwin Coleman Sr.
Awesome. Welcome, Earl. Let's talk about the accomplishment that tends to impress others. What's the one that gets the wow?
Well, the wow was, and I mean, now I think when I worked in the credit union space, I was in the credit union space for 20 years, and I rose to the rank of a vice president. And you would be amazed walking into a room or talking to someone on the phone, and they see that you're an African American and you have a title of vice president. They're like, what? Because it's unheard of. And it's few and far between in the credit union space or in the banking space. I mean, it's not there. But for me, I made it very clear in my organization. I says, if I have to lose myself or lose who I am, then I don't want the title. I would rather be me than have the title. So I was true to myself the whole time from that standpoint. But I think that's what impressed people more is the title.
Yeah, I can see why that would be a wow. I remember when I first talked to you, when I first shared this podcast with you and you said VP, like for sure it was like, oh.
Exactly. Yes.
We've had a Black president of the country. And so it seems like, we're everywhere. Black men are everywhere. And yet, there's so many nooks and crannies, things that we don't often think about, who's running the banks. We think of, going to the bank or the credit union, but here we are in 2021, and it's still uncommon to see, I would say it's not just Black men, but African Americans generally in the upper echelons.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I would just, in the financial sector, period. Mm-hmm. I mean, you think about it, they'll let us run a branch, but to run a cost center that has a $2.5 to $3 million annual budget, it doesn't happen. I mean, or it does, but I don't know. I mean, but they have a lot of progress, man. There's an African American credit union association out there now. So there's a lot of great things happening
Mm,
in the industry.
that's great.
So a lot of great
Yeah.
things. Yes.
Let's talk about words. What's your favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or book, and why?
You're gonna make me choose here, but I'm gonna preface this. I'm gonna say my favorite book beyond any book is the Bible. That book has transformed my life. However, other than the Bible, my favorite book of all times is Acres of Diamonds by Russell Conwell.
Hmm. I don't think I know that book.
Oh, what? Say what?
I'm serious.
Okay, so Russell Conwell, Acres of Diamonds, he from 1850 to like 1895, Russell Conwell gave the Acres of Diamonds speech over 6,000 times. And as a result of that speech, he founded Temple University.
Hmm.
So, in the concept or the whole preface behind Acres of Diamonds is, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you should, and you can listen to it now. It's all over the internet. Is the diamonds that you are looking for are right there in front of you.
Oh.
You just have to know what a diamond looks like.
Mm.
So think about that concept of understanding that with the mindset that there are no sick days and that you can control your environment. Think about that.
That's a lot of power. It's why you're president of a corporation.
So you're not looking from the outside of what can possibly happen. You look within. So
That's great. Is there a person, conversation, moment, or event that stands out as either changing the trajectory of your life or had a significant impact on your life?
yes. Oof. I say it's moments, but it's all in the same vine, is what it is. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I had a background in accounting. So I went into the accounting field. I was able to find a job, no problem. So I'm 2.5 years into the job, and I realized that I'm getting frustrated because there's a burning desire inside of me that's not being fulfilled, being in a room with only 4 to 5 people, no interaction. So I asked my wife at the time, I said, "Hun, I want to change careers. I want to get out of here." She says, "What do you want to do?" I says, "I want to go into sales." And she's like, "Okay, let's do it." So we took all the money that I had, and this is a very key point here for the listeners to understand this. We took all the money that we had, and I paid a professional to teach me how to interview. Paid for a program to learn how to interview, how to present myself in an interview, how to articulate my words, and to be what the role required me to be. Because again, we don't know what we don't know. So I paid for that, and they did some videotapes of me, and then they gave me feedback, and I put my resume out there, and I got my first sales job within 90 days of starting that program, and I'm on fire. And I go to the job, I'm 6 months into the job, and the boss comes in one day and he says, "I'm sorry, we got to let you go." What? What do you mean you got to let me go? It's just not working out. At that point, I pack my stuff up, I go home, and I hear the Spirit of God say to me, "Go to the high school and tell the coach you're here to coach football." So I go, my wife is at work. I tell the coach, "I'm here to coach football." And he says, "First of all, who are you? What's your name?" He didn't even know me. I said, I gave him my name. My name's Donald E. Coleman. I'm a former Marine. I need to do this. I have to volunteer. I have to give back some time of my time here. I don't know why, but I've been instructed to come here. And he says, "If you're serious, come back tomorrow." Told my wife, and she says, you're crazy. We're going to need money. And I said, "Babe, we have to walk by faith now." And to summarize this story, after the season, one of my players' brothers came up to me. He said, "Man, I want to thank you for being here for my brother and for articulating, and just speaking into his life throughout this whole season. And he said, man, what are you going to do now? I said, I'm going to go find a job. He said, what do you mean? I said, man, I've been unemployed for the last 4 months. And he says, what do you do? I says, I'm a salesperson. And he says, what do you sell? I says, I sell intangibles. He said, all right, can you sell money? And I go, yes, I can. He said, send me your resume. So I sent him the resume on Monday. Wednesday, I was hired. And 25 years later, I've been in this industry because of being obedient to go coach high school football.
Nice.
So that's how I look at it from that.
Ooh, I'm so glad you shared all that. Oh my gosh. There's a lot of things that come up in these conversations where brothers are making, something happens and there's some, there's always some point in the road where they've got to choose whether to be faithful, and it looks different ways at different times.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's fantastic. What is a moment or event that either highlights or kind of signifies the experience of being a Black man in the United States?
Oh my goodness. Oh man.
What makes you laugh like that?
This is a very deep question, right? When you say event that highlights your experience, I've had some great experiences as an African-American or a Black man in America. I've had some really horrible I've been discriminated against in the corporate world. I've been discriminated against on interviews. And I've had issues in the military being, coming up. But it's all of those situations that built in me the can do it mindset. I choose not to be a victim because of the negativity. I choose, okay, if you don't want me, that's fine. I'm knocking on the next door. Because what I have is not for you. That's perfectly fine. I'm going to keep moving. So when you ask that, it's not been a moment. It's been several moments of happening. And for me, it's been enlightening because when you live in New York City, and I've been out here 32 years in San Diego, but when you're from New York, as a brother, you know where to go and where not to go. There's no misunderstanding it. You know where you're welcome and where you're not. When I came out here, the racism in California that existed, which doesn't stop, it's how do you say it? It's a hidden racism.
Yes.
it's like they're like looking you right in the face and they're smiling and they're agreeing with you, but yet inside it's not happening. Nothing's moving. Oh yeah, we love your proposal. We like this and all that stuff. Then they go out and they leave and something else totally changes. In New York, it doesn't happen that way. At least it didn't back in my time. When you were somewhere, you're like, nope, we don't want you here, brother. You got to go. So, I grew up at the time in New York when we got bused to junior high school. And every day on that bus ride coming, if the bus stopped at a certain light, grown men came and broke the windows out of the bus with baseball bats and all.
Are you serious?
And this is in the 1970s. Yes.
In New York in the 1970s. We're not talking about the South.
No, New York City. There was a bus strike in New York City in 1980. And we got to school on the buses and the bus drivers went on strike during the day. So all of the Black and Hispanic kids that were bused to the school, we had to walk through what Public Enemy would call the terror zone. But we didn't walk. We had to run 30 blocks to safety. Bottles thrown at us, bricks, and this is in New York City. And that whole area now is all filled up with minorities. So that goes to show you what happens in life when things evolve.
Okay.
Because we grew up, I lived in the South Side, and where we went to school was kind of in Woodhaven, and people would understand that if you know it from that standpoint. So we were bused to school about 35 blocks away from where we lived. So we had to get from the school to that place. So the first thing is we all agreed to stay together. And then as we are walking down the street, some grown men came out of the bars drunk, calling us niggers and yelling at us, "What are you doing here?" So we all started to run. And before long, we got people chasing us and then more people coming out. That was common in New York back in those days. Come on now. I mean, are you kidding me? If you're in Howard Beach after dark in New York in the 1970s, and I mean, I went to high school there from 80 to 84, and we knew not to go through Howard Beach at the dark. You go around Howard Beach. Come on. That's just what it is.
Well, if you'll have to excuse my shock, because as you so aptly put it, see, I grew up in California, in Long Beach.
Oh.
And so I'm used to California racism. And California racism, like you said, it's all smiles and nods. So I'm not saying it didn't happen to other people in other places, but I can just say, also being female, which is why I interview brothers and not sisters, because it's different for us. But in my experience, it was just, I was bused to this middle school that was across the street from Lakewood Country Club. It was Hoover Middle School, and it was a white area. It was white. But, you didn't have to worry about being attacked or anything. But, people would not speak to you. You walk down the street, you say hello. They don't say a word. They don't look at you. You're not there. You discover you're not wanted.
Correct.
But that's what it looks like out here. So that's why I'm like, they actually did what?
And see, that's the craziness. And I grew up in the mixed neighborhood. So for me to go to a school where things were totally different, that was a shock to me, but it opened my eyes. Hey, there's more to this 3-block radius where you live, brother. And then joining the Marine Corps. Yeah, and joining the Marine Corps, I had guys in my boot camp that joined the Marine Corps that had never seen a Black man face to face in their life until boot camp. And this is in 1986. So that goes to show you right there.
Yeah. We forget how young this thing is. We're evolving, but there's some corners that hadn't seen light yet, even
Absolutely.
in the 70s.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
Have you had any interactions with law enforcement? And if so, there are one or two you can share?
Yes, I have. And I'll tell you this. Living in New York, they have beat cops. And they had one beat cop that was very aggressive. And I didn't hang out. I mean, I hung out with my boys, but I wasn't one of those kind of hanging out on the corner, you know what I'm saying? And hustling and doing the stuff like that. I was into sports when I was younger. So I'm up there. I didn't realize that the beat cop basically said, "I don't want any of you guys out here after 7:00. Y'all need to find somewhere else to be." So I walk up, I go to the Chinese restaurant to get some stuff. And he's like, "Boy," and this was, I believe, I'm not even sure what the complexion was. I'm pretty sure he wasn't Caucasian. I'm telling you that now. And I have to preface this because this is very important to say this now.
Okay.
And he's like, "Boy, I thought I told you guys not to be up here." And I'm like, "Sir, I don't know what you're even talking about." And he goes, "What do you mean you don't?" So he grabbed me by my shirt and slapped me upside my head and my ears and let me go. And I ran from that point because I'm like, what just happened here? Mm-hmm. And from that point, it changed everything in my mindset about authority, right? and about the neighborhood. And that's when I kind of realized I got to get out of here, man. I can't stay here. I'm destined for a negative situation if I stay in this environment. And the Marine Corps I got out through my dad directed me to get to the Corps.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that story. Yeah, I'm just going to let it rest right where it is. Thank you. If the United States was a woman with whom you could speak, whether mother, lover, child, neighbor, stranger, whatever, what would you say to her?
Wow, this is an amazing question. I would tell America the same way that I tell my daughters, that you are a priceless diamond. You don't need to be in the mud with everybody else. Know who you are, but most importantly, know whose you are.
Can you say more about that, please?
Well, the point of it is, oh man, I'm going to go down this road with you. The woman is the crescendo of all of creation. Without woman, there is no perpetual creation. Woman is everything of what a man needs and wants and must have. As a man, you have to understand that the woman is the value in the whole system, because the woman procreates life. And until we recognize that a woman is of that caliber, we're never going to experience the fullness of life. So I value women, and I have 3 daughters. And my only desire is to impart into my daughters the fact, number one, that you don't need anyone. So if you choose them, it's because you love them. Don't need anybody. In America, we don't need anyone, right? We don't have to have you to exist. We need, from a collaborative perspective, to be a part of the global, but you don't need someone to get something from them. You have to be able to stand on your own. You have to.
All right. I love it.
So.
Thank you. What is left to you?
Wow. To give of yourself and not expect anything back. Period.
All right. Simple and profound and true.
Yes.
What is something that you've learned through your profession, training, experiences, or adventures that you believe more Black men should know and don't, knowing that whatever you say benefits every listener?
This is very simple. I spent the last 24 years in the financial arena. And he who understands how money works controls tomorrow. Everything that we see in this life has to deal with economics, has to deal with currency, has to deal with income. And after spending 20 years at one credit union, I got released from that credit union to be able to start Semper Kaizen Corporation. And that's what we do. We are a personal development organization that provides training and coaching to help individuals with financial coaching, personal coaching, and leadership and team development. Because once you start working on yourself, money is going to come. I will tell all my listeners right now, listen to me right now. Do not chase money. Money will find you when you have integrity. So be true to yourself and understand that when you're doing what you're supposed to do and life is effortless, everything's going to fall into place. I mean, when I first started in the financial arena, and I heard the fact that as a husband, I'm supposed to be the provider in my house. Men, listen up to that. I'm supposed to be the provider. And my wife at the time was making more money than me. So we both came in agreement, and I prayed and I said, my goal is that I become the provider in the house so that the pressure could be released off of my crown. So what's the first thing? Most people, first goal is, I want to make six figures. They don't understand the tax consequences. They don't care about it, but I want to make six figures.
Mm-hmm.
So I make six figures. But if you're making six figures and you're spending six figures, you're no better off than the person that's making 30 grand.
That's the truth.
So that's the point right there. So understanding about money and understanding personal development is your responsibility. You cannot ask an organization or your employer to invest in you when you're not investing in yourself. It breaks a universal law.
I'll just add that this is such a unique time that we're in. And I say that often, but I just know that there are more people who could take advantage of it and aren't. And what I'm speaking to is, I learned how to create a podcast on YouTube. You know, there's nothing you can't learn through a podcast, through some YouTube, and these are free things. And then of course there are things you can pay for, as you mentioned, paying for learning. You know, you paid to learn exactly what you needed to do to get a sales position. It's like there's so much available to us now that where we can train ourselves in anything. I have a sister who wants to add being bilingual to what she does. Mm-hmm. And she immediately, went and looked at college courses because, that's what we were trained to do. And it's like, yeah, you can do that and go semester by semester and take a year. But I don't know if you know, but they got apps and all kind of stuff now where you can do that. And there are just so many options. And so I just have to emphasize what you said on our investing in ourselves through growth and development. And yeah.
But think about what you just said. You made a choice to decide that you were going to learn versus wait for someone else to empower you with what you needed. And I say to you and to all of your listeners and every person in this world, we have a choice. This is the beauty of America. So.
Yeah. I mean, for all that there is to work on, there is quite a bit of freedom to choose.
Absolutely.
And freedom to act. And that just has to be stated.
Absolutely.
Wow. This has been just a dynamic conversation that has gone so many juicy places. So now is when I'll ask you, now that we've had this conversation, what did you get for yourself personally out of participating in this conversation?
What I got out of this is I've been in a state of awareness and forcing myself to remain alert. So I didn't want to pre-rehearse anything. This to me came from an authentic place, everything that happened here. And when we started to talk about my dad and you brought that up, that to me was a gift. You just gave me a gift. You gave me something else to add to my arsenal or my tool belt that I can carry along with me. And I didn't expect here coming to get a gift. I came to give, but yet I received a diamond. So thank you.
Thank you. I love your energy, your spirit, and I love that you see diamonds everywhere. Like, it is so apparent that, from the dream that you had, you recognized it as a diamond, the going and coaching at the football, hearing the whisper, recognizing the diamond of hearing God's whispers. And now with your Semper Kaizen.
Yes.
It's almost like you're now, not that you haven't always seen the diamonds in the people around you, but you're empowering others to both see the diamond that they are.
Yes.
And then
Yes.
see the diamonds around them. Oh,
yes. My purpose until I die from this point forward with Semper Kaizen is to add value to people around me. It's to help this nation and to help our communities understand that you do have a choice. It's not over until it's over. As long as you got breath and you're willing to do what you did, choose to learn, choose to improve, choose to take action, the circumstance or situation will change. I am a living witness. I am a living being person. I have 3 brothers. My oldest brother sold drugs, went to prison. My next brother sold drugs, went to prison. My twin brother sold drugs and went to prison. So choice can decide your destiny. And I'm saying choose wisely.
I always get inspired by, my mind is just like, I told a friend, it's like my experience in my mind is like people say something and it just cascades. It's just like it just triggers all these things. And one of the things that stands out for me is, I just can't get over this whole diamonds thing. And I think about how we are carbon-based beings. And
wow, that's beautiful.
And coal is carbon.
Yes.
And diamonds are from the pressure and time interacting with carbon to create diamonds.
Yes.
And it's like, I really, so what I'm taking away from this conversation is I can now look out and really see that every person truly, it's more than just metaphoric for me now. It's like, wow, everyone's a diamond.
Yes. And that's a beautiful thing that you just said, because everyone is a diamond, even if they don't know that they are a diamond. Or let's make it even better. They're a priceless diamond that would never be duplicated ever again.
Beautiful. We're going to end on that. That was simply beautiful.
Remember, you can follow us on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, follow us on Facebook at 365 Brothers, the podcast. Lastly, I just want to let you know, producing a podcast, it takes something, and I'm really grateful to have partnered with alidu.com. They make publishing easy. There's a link in the show notes for anyone who either has a podcast or is thinking about a podcast. You don't need to learn all that sound balancing and compression. Save all that. Use your time for what matters, interviewing and sharing the stories that your podcast brings. Thank you for listening to 365 Brothers. I certainly hope you enjoyed the episode. I encourage you to subscribe. Please leave a review. I want to know what you think. Also, if you know someone who would be a fantastic guest for 365 Brothers, please direct them to our website, 365brothers.com. You'll also find all the episodes there, 365brothers.com. And your support is welcome. And remember, to listen is to love.